Pregame.com.
Sunday, NFL action. Baltimore Ravens head to Cleveland to play the Browns. I'm Marco D'Angelo. I'm joined with Stephen Nover. Stephen, I'm going to take the lead on this one to start off. This is a free pick for me. It's not my best bet, but a lot of people are going to line up on the Browns this week. And the reasons being, they're going to point out the Baltimore Ravens coming off that big game last week against San Francisco, the Harbaugh Bowl and everything else, that this is a letdown. They're going to point out the fact that several times this season, Baltimore, after a big game, both of the Steeler games, the next game after that, they went out on the road and laid an egg. All true stuff. There's only one difference, and it's a huge difference. When they played Pittsburgh and then went out on the road, they lost to Tennessee. When they played Pittsburgh the second time, went out on the road and lost again, they played Seattle. Neither of those teams are division teams. They're not going to look past the division rival, plus the fact that it's not a rivalry game for Baltimore as much as it is for Cleveland, because we all know, this is the team that, left Cleveland. The Browns still, the Browns hate the Ravens more than they hate the Steelers these days because of that. So they're going to go in there, they're going to be focused, and Cleveland just still finds a way to lose. I mean, we both were on Cleveland last week. I liked Cleveland a ton last week. Again, we had to sweat it at the end of the game. They led the entire ball game, but put themselves in a position that they could have lost the game at the end. They tackled the guy at the 3-yard line. We were getting 7, so we would have had a push if they punch it in. But, they had the goal line stand, stopped them, and settled for the field goal. What's your thoughts?
Well, Marco, first props on you with Cleveland last week. You called that one, and you swung me over to your side. I appreciate that, and you've been doing very well lately. You've got a good feel on Cleveland Brown games. However,
there's a however.
There is a however on
You're
this.
like a wife. But
I do have to disagree with you on this one. I'm going to be one of these guys, back in Cleveland here. And, I don't think that angle is prevalent anymore, what you mentioned, the Cleveland, Cleveland, with moving the franchise there with the Modell. I think enough time has passed where it's a new generation of players. So I think you're being too glib about Baltimore's road record. Yes, you do admittedly point out their bad loss at Tennessee, a loss at Seattle, a loss at Jacksonville. These are horrendous road losses. Baltimore this season has given no indication that they can cover a large number on the road, let alone even win against a bad team. And yes, Cleveland is going to be up for this game. Baltimore plays far more intimidating at home. Flacco plays better at home. This is not translated so far on the road. So I think you're kind of using a leap of faith to just say, yes, Baltimore probably should win this game. They are the better team. But I think it's a leap of faith to say, oh, yeah, they're going to cover a touchdown here against an aroused Cleveland team that has their best runner finally back, Peyton Hillis. And that offensive line has been opening up running holes. And with Hillis, they can play ball control. I don't know if Ray Lewis is going to play. He's missed the last 2 games. And I think Cleveland hangs in here.
Well, Cleveland has been hanging around teams, the last few weeks, obviously. But hanging around against St. Louis, hanging around against Jacksonville, and then hanging around Cincinnati, who was in a horrible spot last week after playing back-to-back Pittsburgh and Baltimore, as I pointed out. They got a focused team this week. They're playing a team that has a great defense, has offensive firepower, and is not going to look past them because of all the other losses that they've had on the road this year. And those games that you point out, the Tennessee game, that's the worst loss, but that was week 2 of the NFL season, and that was off such a satisfying win they had. If you remember, opening week, they killed Pittsburgh like 35-7. They were still celebrating the following Sunday when they were in Tennessee. Okay, so I rule that game totally out. The second one that they lost on the road after the Pittsburgh game, Seattle's not bad at home. They're not a good team, but this team the last 2 seasons, they're 13-9 against, or the last 3 seasons, they're 13-9 at home against the spread.
Seattle is a good team at home, but good teams do not lose to a Seattle. And I would disagree with your terminology of how you said the Browns hung around with the Bengals. They should have beat the Bengals. If Dawson makes a long field goal, they probably do beat them, and they kind of let that one slip through the grass. So I think it was more than just hanging around. They really should have won that game. And I disagree with you calling Baltimore an explosive offense. Maybe you want to call it a potentially explosive offense, but I don't even see that, Marco. You look at their wide receivers, with the exception of Torrey Smith, they're very slow at wide receiver. Lee Evans hasn't played all year. Smith is a legitimate deep threat, but he's an inconsistent rookie with bad hands, and he cannot be counted on. And the Browns have one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL in Joe Hayden to kind of take care of him. And the Browns' defense is underrated. They've only surrendered 11 touchdown passes all season. They've held 6 opponents to 20 points or less. So how many points is Baltimore realistically going to put up at Cleveland? We could be talking about a weather situation. 17 to 23 points?
If they get to 23 points, they cover.
Well,
because
that's really being kind, though, to say that they're going to get 23 points on the road.
I mean, let's look at Cleveland. Cleveland scored 6 points at home against Seattle. Not a stellar defense. They scored 10 points on the road at San Francisco. They scored 12 points on the road at Houston, 12 points at home to St. Louis, and 14 points against Jacksonville. I mean, where are they going to score? How are they going to score points?
Very, very good. If this was like wrestling, you have maneuvered me on my back by making me talk about Cleveland's offense now when I wanted to talk about their defense. So very good on your part. Boy, trying to defend Cleveland's offense.
It's tough, isn't it?
I do not like Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
I'll say that. But they do have their best running back, Peyton Hillis. He can move the chains. He can catch little swing passes out of the backfield. They have good receiving tight ends.
I think Cincinnati got caught by surprise because I was surprised when Peyton Hillis was in the lineup last Sunday.
Yeah.
And not only in the lineup, as many carries as he got, and I mean, he showed some rust for sure. But, Baltimore's going to be ready for, they know he's going to be in the lineup this week. They're going to be ready for him. I'm sorry. I just don't see Cleveland scoring enough points here. And, as much as it pains me to say this, and I just did a radio show last night, the Chris Townsend show, and the producer on that show is a big Baltimore Raven fan, and he loves to, stick it to me, whenever the Ravens beat the Steelers and everything. And I said on the air last night, I admit it, I think Baltimore right now, if you ended the season right now, Baltimore's the best team in the AFC.
Oh. Again, Marco, I point out, what have they done on the road to justify such a distinction on your part? I think you got to wait to have them prove themselves on the road. If you don't want to back Cleveland here, I understand it, fine. But don't give me Baltimore until they prove themselves on the road.
All right. We'll talk next time. You know what? You're putting up a big fight on this one because I'm going Baltimore. We haven't had a lunch bet in a while.
Any lunch money I had that I could spend, the wife spent it. So no, I can't go a lunch on you here.
Oh man! All right. Well, there you go. I'm going to go with my free pick. It's not my best bet. We'll have my best bet in a later segment. My play here is Baltimore. I have them winning 27-13. That is the average of what Cleveland scored. It's about 13 points a game. So I'm giving them their average. 27-13. 2-touchdown winner. Take Baltimore. He's Stephen Nover. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We're going to be back. One more video free pick coming up with Stephen. It's his best bet. We'll be right back. It's going to be in the Miami-Oakland game. We'll do that one next.